The lazy days of summer can be the most productive of the year if some time is set aside to consider what needs to be renewed, maintained, or updated in your life. And that goes for both your physical world and yourself. I live in a house that has a stable in the backyard. It was built in 1889, and stables were built the way we build garages today. It has stood up better over the years than houses built 25 years ago. But the raccoons had taken over the loft, and the lack of drain pipes had taken their toll. So my son-in-law committed to restoring it, which he was doing beautifully until the city came along with their demands for permits and foundations at all. As a result, it will have to be torn down when the house is sold. But that's a long way off, I hope. The original builder, whose family lived in the house for its first 60 years, did some renovations. The lighting changed from gas lamps to electricity. There still are traces where the gas lines came through, but they just add to the authenticity of its story. In the 1920s, they renovated the kitchen. But when we bought the house in 1976, we knew that a new kitchen reno would be the first on our list of major things to do. It still suits my needs and will stay just as it is for the next 20 years or more. The experience got me thinking about why things can remain the same for a long time, but when and why and how does change come about? And what happens when change doesn't happen when it should? An example. When one of my daughters was getting married, she wanted to have the reception in the backyard. We hardly ever used it because, having been used as a parking lot for heavy equipment for years before we bought the house, the yard had been covered with tons and tons of gravel. We had carted away as much as we could, laid sod all over, and planted a couple of trees. The back door entry was ugly, bare, and functional. Then my son-in-law pointed out that a deck was what was needed. Within a week, it was built and painted, a brilliant design that opened up the backyard and basement to a whole new world. And the backyard has become the center for sports, parties, worship, and home to a fish pond. We lived here for almost 25 years before we learned what was needed. All those lost summer days when we could have been enjoying the sun and the stars and beating the young ones at badminton. Maintenance is a different thing, and for one who grew up in an apartment, seemingly a never-ending source of demands. Painting, lawn mowing, polishing floors, changing furnace filters and batteries on smoke detectors, shoveling snow, to say nothing of climbing ladders to clean gutters and wash windows. The category I find the hardest, though, is updating. I like the way things are. But times change, and heat pumps and solar panels and green roofs are the new in thing. Thermostats are now programmed to go up in summers to cut down on air conditioning and down in winter to save on furnace time. So fewer clothes in the summer, more in the winter. I still cling to my landline phone, but most youngsters don't even know how to use them or how to function without their cell phones. And I keep my landline to phone my cell phone whenever I misplace it. Landlines are definitely easier to find. Just follow the cord. Manicured lawns were the thing for most of my life, but now the wilderness look has taken over so many front lawns with a riot of colors and nothing to mow. I admit I rather like it. But as you ponder all those practical physical issues in your surroundings, what about you? What do you need to update? Your driver's license, your passport, or perhaps it would be appropriate to renew your marriage vows. Is it time to change your job or start working on a new career, or going back to university or trade school so that you can get out of the rut that your working life has become? Do you have the time and the means to finally follow that abandoned career dream? Are you in the process of entering a new stage of life? We go from child to student to single to married to parent to empty nester and perhaps alone again. What changes do you need to make, from wardrobe to where you live or how often you get to the gym? What in your life needs updating? Are there friends you've lost touch with? Do you vacation in the same spot every year? Perhaps there is a dream trip you've never got around to taking. Is this the time? Are your vaccines up to date? And when was your last medical checkup or dentist appointment? I like the feel of newsprint in my hands when I check up on the news. But perhaps I should consider one of those subscriptions to dozens of papers online. While our ways of getting around change with the years, you start with learning to walk, to riding a bike, to driving a car, or maneuvering a motorcycle before abandoning driving and onto Uber. And ultimately, back to a walker again. Are you about to update from one category to another, or does someone else need you to help them with the move? You need to update your skills, your hobbies, your pastimes, your choice of sports, whether to play one or to cheer a team on. What you need to get the most out of life. So many choices to ponder in the lazy days of summer. How to use the gifts God gave you and what to give back to God, His people, and His world. It all makes for interesting hours, daring dreams, and wondrous outcomes. Enjoy. And for that I pray, gracious God, before I celebrate Holy Communion, I say, the gifts of God for the people of God. Let me learn how to use the many talents and gifts you have given me. They should not be squandered. Let me use the slower pace of this time of year to examine the things I have been too busy to address. So may it be. Amen.